Greetings.
Oh,
Welcome to Starfleet, boy. I am Eugenio James TK of Magna Roma, and this is Starfleet, boy.
And we're back.
James Kirk is my great grandfather.
Oh, dearie me.
Speechless. Words fail.
Yet again.
This is his best gag. This is your best gag, Ruben. I appreciate
I finally sorted my Halloween box. More fun than
what is that in your hair? Is that?
It's like laurels, I think.
Laurels.
It's or no, it's actually a money plant. I think that's not even laurel. Isn't that like a money plant or something? I love it. So today you're wearing the wig, but you're in a toga, so you'll be less hot, hopefully.
What will be the best thing now if he says, "What episode are we talking about?" He was just doing it.
Yeah, it's not Who Mourns Adonias.
We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal, very casual today, an informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're talking about bread and circuses, the penultimate
Here
episode.
on the parallel Earths, we don't really have a wide range of mythologies.
This is the penultimate episode of season 2. We're almost there. One more Earth, assignment Earth. Oh, Ruben's frozen. We're also expecting hopefully Robbie will be here soon, as well as Tex Trek will pop by towards the end. I imagine he's getting his lunch again, so maybe he's listening to us while we're here. How's everyone today? I'm joined by Sub Commander Tall, the beautiful
Greetings. Tilly,
Eugenio James TK, and our Dadmiral. Which, by the way, Dadmiral, I was thinking about you because I feel like you could totally be a gladiator in this. Like you could have, they could have totally cast you as one of the gladiators. That might be a fun cosplay idea. Just saying. I saw you have.
Do it.
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, he's gone mute. He's purposely gone on mute, probably.
Did you go on mute on purpose? Oh no! Whatever he had to say, the internet doesn't want him to say it. Like that's. Anyways, I know you have gauntlets. Oh, you're still on mute.
Still mute.
Here, let me see if I can unmute you.
How's that?
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Back.
Right, what I was going to was, am I Daddimus Deximus Meridian?
Totally. We already have quite a few folks in the audience. Welcome, audience.
Yeah.
I am so excited to spend a little time with you guys. Chris Collins is here, and he says, one of my favorite episodes of the original series, but I wish we saw more of the space age cars in this episode advertised in magazines. Yeah, what was it, the Jupiter 8?
Jupiter 8,
Yeah, that was a slick looking car, and I think that's the car that...
It's a real car, yeah. It was an experimental car. I forget the name of the guy who made it, but he also did the Batmobile, I think, or there's some relationship to it. There's a picture. I'm just looking for it now of William Shatner with it.
Isn't it?
William
Shatner
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
And he just actually this week on Twitter posted about that car. Like I just saw that earlier this week. So it's time. I think William Shatner might be watching these. Hello, Mr. Shatner. if you're watching these, I don't know. That might be a little too presumptuous on my part. And we have Ulysses the Pagan. Hello, welcome. Ulysses listens and lurks sometimes, but today they're talking, so we appreciate it. Name for the episode makes sense. Being during Roman gladiator combat, the government also gave spectators allotments of wheat. Yeah, and then it just means stuff about today we use it as to describe politics and stuff like that, right? Like bread and circuses. I think it's a phrase that I've heard used.
It's just government using distraction.
Oh yeah, and that too, I guess.
Yeah,
there's a whole a whole theme of that.
Don't like what we're doing in Iraq? Here's a tax cut. So that kind of thing.
Exactly. Hence the phrase came to mean superficial peace. Oh, thanks, Ulysses. I didn't see that one. Let's see here. Chris also says, I enjoy the escape scene in the episode. I like the idea of a society mashing up different eras together in their technology based upon what they learned by a crew who crashed on the planet. It wasn't so influential right? Like in this case, they just developed. We've had a couple parallel Earth situations now, and in some cases there was a lot of influence, but in this case it was more like the Roman Empire never fell, basically, on this parallel Earth, and so that's why.
Yeah, and they independently developed whatever it is, whatever technology they had there, I think. Although, like the Jupiter 8, that looked pretty space agey. But I don't think that it was meant to have been influenced by the crew from the Beagle that were stranded there or were absorbed there.
Well, yeah, because the actual ship itself was obviously in pieces, wasn't it? It had been destroyed because that's the start of the episode. So
yeah.
Hi, Al, Starfleet Boy. I'll be a little quiet. Oh, and thanks, Blue, for indulging that weird email that I forwarded you for no reason. I apologize. But that's now you have a sneak peek of the trailer that we're going to play at the end of the stream for Ian's latest YouTube. So that's exciting.
One of the very first, actually. It's only been 1 or 2 people that have actually seen it. So
right on.
Is probably just about the third person.
We're special. We also have Darren in the audience. Nice to see you, Darren. And boos and hisses and cat calls, which is that was really funny during the TV studio segments when they would just like do all that stuff. This is a really interesting episode. I can't wait to get into the meat of it. Captain RGD is also here. Fun will now commence. Oh, look, Ian's both in the audience in here. Braxton, happy Sunday greetings. Oh, Captain Killy's in the audience too. Wow, there's like so many folks. It's like one of the biggest streams we had. Thank you. We've had so far. Thank you. Who would like to, Eugenio, would you like to do the episode summary this week?
Oh crap.
I'll do it.
Oh, Tilly will do it.
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Nice.
Yes. All right, cool.
I don't think you can hear me. I keep coughing. I can't stop coughing. Sorry. I'll start. I may not be able to finish. Right.
We'll help you out. We promise.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we start off with the Enterprise saying they've picked up some space debris, which they've determined is from the USS Beagle or the SS Beagle, I think they say, don't they?
SS Beagle.
SS, yeah.
SS Beagle. And that's been missing for several years or so. And they realise there's no humans or belongings belong to the humans among the debris, and therefore it's assumed that they escaped to safety. Big assumption. They figure out the wreckage came from a Class M planet, or Planet 4, I think, which is close by. And Spock mentions that the Beagle was under the command of Merrick. Is it R. Merrick? S. Merrick? I can't remember.
RM.
Yeah.
And then Kirk knew him from the Academy, and then he...
It stands for really mediocre Merrick.
Really mediocre Merrick. Okay.
Oh, poor Merrick.
But Kirk knew him from the Academy. Apparently he left in the 5th year or something and joined merchants or something. And then on screen, there's the M-class planet, very similar to Earth. Could be Earth, you never know. They say that the planet's not warp capable, but there was one thing they said they've got excellent road systems. And I was like, well, they're not clearly looking at the UK then at that point. They've probably only had the side. And Uhura picks up a video broadcast.
That's a funny nod to the actual Romans who had an awesome road system.
Oh, absolutely. All roads lead to Rome. But yeah, Uhura picks up a video sort of link or broadcast, and it comes back as this black and white news piece, and it looks a bit like a raid, and then it goes on to, and now on to sports, which very much looks like gladiatorial battles, and they announce that there was a barbarian, one of the famous barbarians killed was William Harrison, who was a Beagle crewmate. So they start to kind of put 2 and 2 together. So they decide to beam down into this non-populated area. And I think McCoy is once again in a bit of a snippy mood. He's always in a snippy mood, probably because they beamed down too far away from where they needed to go. And I really felt that as a woman that wears heels. But yeah,
a tall woman who wears heels.
Tall woman, tall woman, yeah. It was without boots actually.
Right.
So Commander Tuff. There you go. So what happens there? I think they talk about the Prime Directive a little bit. They say it's applicable, and then suddenly there's gunfire, and then there's English shouted out, and that's a surprise. And then suddenly they're surrounded, and they're taken to a man called Septimus by a guy called Flavius. I'm loving these Roman names, Latin names. And they find out they've run into a band of runaway slaves and they're in hiding. And the team try and defuse the situation by proving they aren't the enemy. They get Scotty to kind of sort of talk to them via the communicator, which works. Then they found out it's a parallel planet situation, guys. Woo.
What was it called? Hodgkin's
theory.
Yeah, that's cool.
Parallel
Another parallel universe. This is like the third. I feel like not universe, Earth, or planet. Which this is like the third one, I think or the second one. I don't know.
Well, it depends on if you go production or broadcast, but yeah, so you got Muri, you've got the pattern, patterns of force. Well, no, that doesn't count. Okay, so we got Muri. We've got
the fifth one.
Well, I mean, some of them are like we influence them to be like in Piece of the Action. Does that count?
I think that one counts too.
Private Little War, does that count?
The Red Hour Planet counts too. There's like a ton.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh yeah, so there's like I think officially there's only 3, but yeah, there's like you're right. So anyway, sorry.
This one. So this one is the parallel situation where Rome never fell. And we find ourselves somewhere similar to Earth in the 20th century. They sort of talk about smog and all sorts of things like that. And then we found out that Septimus was this ex-senator. He was banished, made into a slave, all to do with sun worship and things like that, which they kind of make mild reference to. And you think, yeah, I should really listen to that. That's probably going to come up later. And he tries to deter them from going into the town. Kirk then mentions Merrick's name, and they go, "Oh, Merricus," because that's what you do. You just add us on the end of someone's name, and you become Roman suddenly.
It's like an Asterix comic.
We named Murica after Merricus. So Murica.
But yeah, everyone gets a bit nervous. He's known as was it the first butcher or something like that? And then they have a bit more discussion. It's agreed that Flavius will take him into the town undercover. They're undercover for about 2 seconds before they're apprehended. The guards recognize Flavius as an escapee. They take him away. And then they remove Spock's awesome beanie hat that he carries around everywhere when he beams down and referred to as a barbarian. So that's not looking good. So they go to jail. And Kirk asks to speak to Merricus. They talk a little bit. Spock and McCoy play off each other, and it's sort of quite a good conversation about logic, actually.
Yeah, McCoy's a little extra cantankerous this episode too.
I was going to ask that.
He's in a really bad
should
mood.
Not be allowed on any away mission ever.
Why?
He's strapped. He is way too emotional. He can't fight. I mean,
he knocked out a god. Come on, he knocked out a god.
We'll get to that.
That's right.
I disagree, but we'll get to that.
He can throw that mattress.
He's
the only guy who can throw the mattress. They need him to throw the mattress.
I was like, this guy's freaking out like 2 minutes into being put into.
He was a little extra this episode, but he redeems himself.
He does. So I'm trying now. I think they try to fight their way out. McCoy feigns a bit of illness, but Merrick's watching all along, and he says there's lots to explain, and I'll take you to the pro. Is it the proconsul?
Proconsul or council? Yeah, one or the
I
other.
thought he said council to start, so I got confused. But it's the consul who he takes them to, and the proconsul knows who they are, so he actually is aware they are from a foreign. I don't know if he's aware that they're from a starship, but from a foreign land, and he's not part of that particular area. Or I didn't.
He knows. He
knows.
I think he's been told everything.
He knows it's a starship.
He knows everything. It's like they're from outer space and everything.
When he sees Spock, he says, "Oh, so this is a Vulcan."
Merrick is not.
Oh yes, he does. Yes. Sorry, got you.
Merrick not being from a starship. Well, Merrick doesn't have to follow, I guess, the Prime Directive. His ship wasn't like, maybe he wasn't like bound to it, but he's just like, but Merrick's just very easy.
I firmly believe the Prime Directive is just written on the wall somewhere in Starfleet, and there's no actual class or any like discussion about best practices.
It's like a motto or something.
I mean, they beam down into the middle of an open area in uniform. They don't even try to pretend to like. I'm like, you're not supposed to interfere, guys.
They do beam down in uniform, but like, I guess like
open.
I would say if they beam down looking like they did and you beam down looking like you did, they'd probably fit in more.
You look like Bacchus.
On Magna Roma, as the planet was later called. I'm from an area in Magna Roma called the Greek Isles.
By the way, Ruben knows a little bit of context beyond this, which he'll share with us later on, based on I think Dr. Una McCormick's book, The Autobiography of James T. Kirk. So he's going to share a few little interesting tidbits later on.
Sure right now. I don't really know.
But carry on, Tilly. Carry on.
What happens now? What happens then?
Oh, so yeah, so the proconsul reveals that he wants the whole entire ship to beam down and basically be enslaved.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then he kind of puts Kirk into some sort of paradox where if they send the crew down with phasers, they'll be violating the Prime Directive. And then you can't make it crash because they'll be violating the Prime Directive. So there's a bit between a rock and a hard place.
And he thinks that he can threaten Kirk by holding Bones and Spock hostage, basically, or like threatening to kill them. But Kirk it proves to be steadfast, and so then he considers him a man all of a sudden, and like there's all this weird stuff where he's basically like insulting Merrick constantly and stuff.
Yeah,
leave. This is a discussion for men. Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff.
I think it goes back up to the Enterprise, isn't it? And then Scotty recognizes he calls it a code green.
Oh,
so
yeah, the code green, yeah.
Yeah, so they're in trouble, but no action to be taken, which I think is quite cool. So we can't interfere, but he then hatches a plan to frighten them, which we found out later in the show is the blackout that he creates. I'm trying to think what happens next. So I think Spock and McCoy end up in the arena. They are introduced as the Barbarians. And then they go against Flavius and one other Roman, Achilles, comes out. So there's a big old fight. I think the Romans start to show their strength. And they got those dials on the show where they've got boos, cheers, hisses, and sort of things like that. I think Spock overpowers... Does he kill one of them? I think he kills Flavius, doesn't he?
He knocks him out.
He knocks him out, yeah.
Knocks him out with the shield.
Okay.
Shield bash.
And then the other one, he overpowers the one, and then he neck pinches Flavius. So yeah.
That's it. And then sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, but sadly, Flavius will succumb later on.
He does, yeah.
Like
Yeah, jumping ahead of yourself there.
Sorry. I got sad. I got sad thinking of my personal gladiator.
In that opening broadcast, they murder that one guy. Like it cuts.
Oh yeah.
The way the camera cuts, but you see the guy kind of damn.
So I think the proconsul asks Kirk whether to choose an easy or a hard death, and then they sort of head back to the cells, and then I think Kirk goes back to the villa or wherever it is, and he meets Drusilla, who's a slave, but Kirk's not falling for it, and he sort of starts shouting out for the proconsul. Spock tries a bit of a breakout, has a bit of a heart-to-heart with McCoy. Oh, hi, Robbie. Sorry, I didn't notice you. Hi.
Hey, Robbie. And Father's here, too. Father's just chilling.
Hi, Father. Oh, my, not well, then. But, yeah, no, they have this heart-to-heart, and they have this argument, and he calls him a pointy-eared hobgoblin, which is the best line.
The best and terrible, so terrible that he called him that. But yeah, and earlier they called him like a pointy-eared. Someone called him a pointy-eared something else. Also, everyone's always picking on Spock's ears. Like,
well, there is that bit near the start when he goes to Spock. He said, "What do you call them?" I call them ears. You're being funny. No.
What was that? You? Oh, go ahead.
I think McCoy called him a hobgoblin.
Yeah. Pointy-eared hobgoblin. So,
Eugenia, what were you saying? Eugenia's a little out of sync with us, so he
my
probably.
Planet, we have a game called. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. On my planet, we have a game called Dragons and Dungeons, and Spock will be more of a high elf than a hog.
I like that. Very cool. Eugenio, try to log off or close Windows. Close some windows on your browser or something like that, and then it should fix it. But yeah, you're like 5 seconds off. It's cool. You're like in the past. We're in the future. Carry on, Tilly. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Almost there.
What happens? I think, Drusilla sees Kirk again. They have a bit of a snog. And then he wakes up after having a long nap, and one of the communicators is missing. And then he wakes up, the proconsul's there, telling him he's going to die soon. And then he tells Merrick to leave them alone because they want to talk man to man. That was when they had that conversation. And then he promises them that easy death, but then kind of takes them to the arena. And then I think it goes back to the Enterprise, and Scotty's preparing to disrupt the planet's power supply or something. I like that line where he's like, let's show them the full power of a starship. That's like pretty cool that they're able to disrupt the power grid on the whole planet. Like, I guess a 20th century power grid, which makes me think that like if they had the Enterprise in Star Trek, The Voyage Home, imagine what kind of crazy stuff they could have done to confound 20th century Earth of that time. It would have been pretty crazy. Anyways, sorry, go on. I think, there's a bit of a fight. You've got guards, you've got gladiators, you've got barbarians, you've got Kirk in the middle of it all, and then suddenly there's a blackout. I think Kirk's grabbed a gun, he starts firing. I think that is where Flavius meets his end, isn't it, at that point?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. And then the guards attack them. I think Merrick, that's it. Merrick then suddenly pulls out the communicator. So it wasn't Kirk that had tried to steal it back. It was Merrick that had it all along. And he tries to talk to Scotty to get them to beam up to safety, but he's stabbed in the back, which is very Rome. Very on vogue for Rome. Being stabbed in the back. And that was by the proconsul. A2 Brutus.
Or proconsul, yeah, exactly.
A2 proconsul. And I think that's they kind of just get beamed back up from there. It did seem to cut quite short because I thought there was going to be more of an ending. There was going to be, anyway, that's for us to discuss later. But yeah, they get beamed back to the ship. Scotty gets a commendation for not violating the Prime Directive and saving them. Kudos to him. And then they talk. I think Uhura brings the subject up. She's barely been in the episode at all, but then she comes in at the end and says something about the sun worshipping, because they all talk about why the sun, because Rome never worshipped the sun or anything like that. But actually they figure out that the word is sun as in S-O-N rather than S-U-N. And it's to do with Caesar, and it's to do with Jesus Christ. And it gets a bit religious. And then I think Kirk, or is it Spock, makes a comment about they're going to witness the fall of Rome, but they're going to witness the fall of Rome in the 20th century, and wouldn't that be quite cool to see? And he goes, well, all right, I'll just get out of here anyway. And off they go.
Yep, and then they'll build a duck blind and monitor the civilization illegally and see it happen. That's an awesome summary. Great job. And I just want to say that Bones and Spock were totally wrong because they totally forgot about Apollo, who was the sun god, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like Romans did worship the sun, but not.
Was Apollo a Roman god? I thought he was a.
Oh well, there would have been. He would have been Greek. I guess
his name was the same. His name. It was Apollo for both. There he is.
In all his glory.
Yeah, you better squint lest you be blinded.
That's very nice
beauty.
House.
The 20th century Roman villa. It's very, very nice. I had to show it, Ruben. and those are those New Balance shoes or something? It's like
they are Under Armour. Under
Armour, great. Which you have none of right now. You have no Under Armour at the moment.
No.
That's a whole different program.
Is that After Dark? Starfleet Boy After Dark.
Yes. Oh, and just a quick to our Emperor here. This is the daytime show, so it's PG-13. Which your outfit's fine, but just your words. Watch those colorful metaphors. That's all. So that was an amazing summary. Yeah, it was interesting that they brought in Uhura at the end to talk how she was like monitoring communications, and she discovered that like they were talking about like the Son of God, so to speak. So Christianity. That's the other erroneous thing is that the Roman Empire didn't fall because of Christianity. It actually was a Christian Roman Empire, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
the Holy Roman Empire, as it was known for like a long time, like how many hundreds of years before it fell. So, so that those are a few facts that you can't really blame them. I mean, it's like 300, thousands of years ago in their past, so maybe they didn't study Rome too well in Starfleet Academy or in history. Like there was a lot of other things that they were focusing on, like probably the shitty times we live in now. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, they're not too shitty. Like not when you guys are here. But I cheated. I did the PG-13 thing. Sorry. What did you guys think of this episode?
It's a good episode.
I really liked it.
It is a good episode. It's at least it's giving season 2. It's going out with a bang, as such, with this one. So yeah, no, I do like it.
I just sorry, I loved all of Spock and McCoy's interactions. I think this episode had some of my favorite for the whole first 2 seasons. Anyway, I can't remember much of season 3. But
you're not missing much.
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, the chemistry and the dialogue between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and particularly that scene between McCoy and Spock in the jail cell. Even how the lighting is set up, how it's very sensitively done, and it's humorous, but it's also earnest, and yeah, it's very very well done. I really enjoy that. I remember when I volunteered at the National Air and Space Museum decades ago, this was the one clip they showed. They had a Star Trek exhibit there, and they showed that clip of them in the jail cell. And you know why you're not afraid to die? You're more afraid of living. And you hear that Vulcan theme come up on the Gerald Fried score, and yeah, then going back. But it comes to be known that they're both actually very worried about Kirk. Meanwhile, he's having some fun with Drusilla and the other, which he refers to obliquely when he comes back and says they threw me a few curves, which is kind of amusing. So but I thought the character interactions were really good.
That moment really got me choked up. I was like surprised. I'd seen this episode when I was a kid, and then probably 20 some odd years ago when the DVDs came out. So it's been a while since I'd seen it, and I'd forgotten all these like there's all these great Trek moments, but especially that moment between Spock and McCoy. And again, for me this time, I feel like it was more poignant because of Discovery, like because of the events of Discovery kind of filling in more of the Spock story and like his feeling of aloneness, and like because he's so unique, being half human, half Vulcan, and there's not a whole lot of them. I think he's the only one as far as we know, which is odd to me. But I guess Trip.
Isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't it weird how McCoy is like, you might slip up and show like a genuine, warm human emotion someday, and it's like, Bones, you saw Spock do that at the end of Amok's time.
Yeah, when he that's true. When he actually, I think that Bones is taking that into account, Fathery. I think he's just like reminding Spock in that moment because Spock is so arrogant about how emotions don't affect him in a weird way. Like it's kind of, you can see this like tension between them, like where Bones is annoyed that Spock is just so adamant about his Vulcan side and doesn't like acknowledge his human side, even though like you said, Bones has seen it. Everyone's seen it. We've all seen it. Like we've seen him like crack here and there. And then Spock
Well, that was the one big one. Big one. Like I think like the scene would work kind of better if it took place before that. But I mean, like I love that moment in Amok's time, and I love this conversation here, which was actually cut out of a lot of the times when they were syndicating this episode. It didn't include that entire scene.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I always felt special when I got the this one on VHS, when I had the VHS subscription in the 90s. because I was like, oh yeah, this is like a scene that a lot of people don't get to see.
Oh, very, very cool.
I think they also, I mean, they go on about a mock time, but it's also this side of paradise as well, where you see him in a full range of human emotions. He loves.
But he's influenced by those spores or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right.
He's still
yeah,
showing
he's still
emotion.
capable.
He loves and everything else. I mean, he even has sex. So,
which I know now when it happens. Like in this episode, I know that when the candles. Like they showed the shot of the candles, and then they're out the next day. Like I would never have caught that before. I would have thought like, oh, just Captain Kirk just fell asleep and that was it. Like so now I know. I'm clued in now. I'm watching for those costume changes and stuff like that.
I found it amusing that in a piece of action they took so much care to not leave any equipment that could. Interfere with their culture. They left communicators and phasers in this episode.
No, I guess you're right. Yeah. So they're going to find out how the transdater works. Or wait, that's another episode.
But you say that, but I think they would have had those already because obviously with Merrick and everything else, they would have had communicators and phasers as well. So it seems that obviously the Empire would have put it in made it top secret or anything like that. So
in my head continuity, Scotty sees to it by using the immense prowess of the Enterprise to disable those devices and cause them to self-destruct from outer space.
Shoot out a surge or something, so they all overload.
Yeah, and so they all overload it, and so that's what I'm going to say. But who knows? We can maybe revisit this planet in lower decks and see what's up with the.
They may come back and want a piece of our action or some of our bread. Circus,
it's true.
20 years.
But yeah, I especially loved that scene. I liked how Captain Kirk was just so like. I guess like confident, like that again, it was like this, he's up against this proconsul who's like tempting him constantly and trying to break him down. And it's really sad. Like at first I was like, oh, here's another, with Merrick, I was like, oh, here's another character who's like, like he's going to be a mad, captain who went crazy and stuff, but he ended up being a very sympathetic character, and I felt sorry for him. Like, first of all, he didn't make the cut to become a starship captain, and that's pretty sad. And he knew Jim before, and he sees him again, and again, further disappointment. Like Jim's disappointed, obviously, in Merrick that he gave in and stuff like that. But when you hear about what happened, I saw in the comments someone said, like, I think it was Chris who said he would have liked to have seen more of the crew of the Beagle, but they were all murdered by the proconsul, like in front of Merrick had to like endure watching that. And even has that one scene where he says, like, I thought it would be easier to watch your crew go through this after I'd seen my crew go through it, but it's not. And I thought that was really cool. Like this was a cool character because he wasn't just like pathetic or weird or crazy.
Yeah, he was just human.
Yeah, he was just human.
And I think a lot of his crew the same way. I mean, yes, a lot of them, it sounds like they were killed, but some of them he references if they've managed to find a way to survive here, then they're still alive. So I think
gotcha.
it is kind of interesting to see an example that, because everyone we see in Starfleet is generally very high performing. They've got their stuff together. Maybe they've gone crazy, but then they're high performing crazy. But here's a guy who wasn't in Starfleet. He didn't quite make the cut. He went into the sort of the civilian merchant marine service, and he just got into a situation that was over his head. He didn't have the ingenuity or the strength, if you want to be more judgmental, to resist what happened. And he just he went along and tried to save his skin. And it's a very human thing. I mean, you can criticize him, but how many of us would do the same thing in that situation? When you're scared and you don't have the abilities to count on to take on the planet the way a brash, ingenious Captain Kirk might. So yeah, I do find him sympathetic, and it came up a little bit on Twitter just how he redeems himself at the last scene, throwing the communicator. I find that a very satisfying moment. So it's nice to know, even in the 23rd century, most people are still just normal people, and Kirk and crew, etc. Those are the elites in some ways.
That was the other scene that got me choked up. Was when he tosses the communicator into the prison cell and saves his friends basically, and dies. And you can see the proconsul so disappointed, like he's just like
with the knife going like that.
Tilly, you were saying how like you felt the ending was a little kind of rushed and stuff. It does end suddenly, but I felt it was like it was all right. Like it ends on like this like action moment or whatnot.
It ends okay. It just seemed to, I just wanted a bit of, does anyone get their comeuppance?
Yeah.
On the planet's surface, that kind of thing. It was like, oh, let's team up. Hey, we're saved. Off we go. And then they predict the fall of Rome in the 20th century. But I don't know. There was just something a little bit missing for me in that. They could have had a bit of.
I think we all wanted. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would have liked to have seen the proconsul get his comeuppance like on screen. Like that would have been nice. Yeah, it's true. Booze hisses and Catcall says these gladiators had a retirement plan if they lived long enough. It's true. I thought that was interesting. Like, and they touched upon in the episode how like if Rome were allowed to survive, like how would they like? Flavius says like eventually slavery became kind of accepted because they basically turned it into like retirement plans and pensions and they treated you even had a say in government to an extent or whatnot, and it made me just think of like working life in general, like in like the United States, like we're kind of in that, like, or maybe even everywhere, like all over the world, we're kind of like in this in a lot of like societies where like commerce and capitalism and things like that are like the predominant system. You do have like a kind of slavery going on where your workers are mistreated or are underpaid, definitely underpaid no matter what, like especially here in the United States you hear about these disparities between like what CEOs earn and what your average worker makes, and there's like basically no more middle class and things like that. So it was very like on the nose and relevant in a weird way. I was like, whoa, am I just like, am I a slave? Like, I'm going to be rewarded for living long enough with a pension plan or a retirement plan and stuff like that. Like it was a lot to think about. What did you guys think of all that?
I thought this was a good episode to think about why the lower deckers are so important, because when Kirk and McCoy and Bones are smiling on the bridge of Enterprise, it kind of felt a bit misplaced to me. What happens after the fall of the Roman Empire? Is it the Dark Ages? Are they going to have a ship? Go back and see how these societies have progressed or regressed, kind of like I suppose the only comparison I can think of right now is Hell's Kitchen, when Gordon Ramsay comes back to the kitchen, see if they've done well or not. But I think
you've completely failed.
Most of them did fail.
You missed about 20 swear words in there.
I'll do a better Gordon Ramsay impression on the After Dark program.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting how they sort of tried to play the scenario out of what if Rome didn't fall? What would happen to the institution of slavery? Or how would they, even in the casual way, they, name their vehicles after the deities and that sort of thing. I mean, it would have been interesting to get into that a little bit more, but there's only so much you can fit into the episode. I think actually, I remember reading, maybe that part was more Roddenberry's influence. I think Gene, because they are both listed as co-writers for the episode, although they didn't come up.
Genes were, weren't they? Yeah, both.
Neither of them originated the story idea, but they took the draft that they got and they both worked on it. And then I think you can see the Gene Kuhn influence in a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the human moments, and then I think Roddenberry's is more, those bits where you're trying to imagine what the society would actually be like. I think he was trying to come up with the idea that, well, just slavery as a concept is self-defeating, or over time it will kind of morph into something more, it's not sustainable. So yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. And I mean, I guess, okay, so they have to do whatever their work is. So that's what makes them a slave, but they get some benefits. They get, health care in their old age, etc. So you compare that to a regular, working Joe out there. Okay, you have a choice to do that job, but how much choice do you really have if you're in some, backwoods town and this is the only job that's around? So yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely interesting to think about.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it also, at this time they didn't really have it as solidified, but if you were to compare it to the TNG version or vision of, of the Federation in the future, it's interesting because, true independence comes from when you can pursue your heart's delight, right? Like, so that's what people in the 24th century are able to do, and people from Kirk's Earth, from the Federation's Earth and stuff like that. And so it's a whole different thing from what we have now. So we're in the middle period. We're on our way. Hopefully, we're hopefully gonna, with the tenets of love and brotherhood and all that, maybe we'll make it. Who knows? Go ahead, Father.
The term y'all were, I think, thinking about is wage slavery.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I like how Father pops in. He's like, "You're welcome." Mute. Captain RGD says Giorgio said bread and circuses on Discovery. I don't remember which episode that was, but I can see her saying it. Ulysses the Pagan wants to know, was the USS Beagle named after Porthos? That would be amazing. And they should have just named it the Porthos in that case, but that would have been amazing. That's a good retcon. I approve that retcon. Fun Will Command says, this is one of the best episodes in Star Trek. It's really good. And Jace agrees. I wish we had encountered more crew. Oh, we already talked about that. That's the comment I was remembering. Booze Hisses and Cat Calls wants to know, why was the leader always attacking Merrick's manliness? That was weird. I think it was because
I think that's down to the way Romans were. The thing is also in the 60s, even the 70s, and even the 80s. There where to put somebody down, you would put down their manliness. You're not a man. You're not anything. You see it in TV and films all the way through to the 80s, and it started to change in the 90s and more so now. But it was that bit. It was attacking their masculinity, or that's the way they did it. So it's just one of those things from that time.
I wish Merrick, I get that, but I wish Merrick hadn't been so affected by it, because he is from our time, not our time, but Kirk, he is a contemporary of Kirk and co, and supposedly they're over that kind of stuff, as Kirk illustrates throughout the thing. But yeah, Merrick, but I guess, again, just being in that environment and constantly being berated and exposed to that, maybe it was just another symptom of him cracking under the pressure, so to speak. But yeah, good point. Captain Kirk defied Claudius Marcus, which is something that Merrick did not do. That's right. Didn't because he failed the psycho simulator test. Booze, hisses, and cackles. Yeah. Oh, that's why he didn't leave the academy. He was the sub commander sent. The sub-commander sent a funny GIF on Twitter, but it won't let me share it. So
darn.
Yeah, so I was trying to share it earlier, but it's really funny. Maybe you can post it on the thread of the discussion that we're having on Twitter, because it is hilarious.
Okay.
It might not be hilarious to some people, but it is to me. That's right. He was called the first citizen, the butcher, Merrick. Merrick failed at Starfleet Academy, and he was in the Merchant Fleet. I'm sorry, I'm so behind on the comments, guys. I apologize.
What is the Merchant Fleet?
It's just like being commerce, like regular transports.
Okay.
It's the same way you have it now. You have it sort of in the UK. You have the Royal Navy, you have the Merchant Navy. You got the Merchant Navy that do all the cargo ships.
That's what I was going to say.
So it
wasn't Travis on Enterprise. Wasn't Travis's family in a situation like that, or were they just they were boomers, I think they were called.
They're
right?
boomers, yeah. But that's sort of similar to what the merchant fleet would be. It would be those type of things on ships,
trading in kivas and trillium and miners' wives and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. Conrad says, "Oh, is that Connie?" Connie says, "Nice T-shirt, Tilly." It is a nice T-shirt. Do you mind showing us your T-shirt real quick?
I wonder what you were going to say then.
Very cool. It is a really cool shirt. Nice. Very, very cool. And then Geek and Reviews here. Geek, nice having you on Starfleet Boy After Dark last night. That was fun. We got our fun Geek and Review representation last night. And tomorrow I'm doing a fun thing with him. Is that live, Geek, or are we recording it? Let us know, promote it in the chat if it's live so that we can talk about it later. Chris wants to know, is this the first time on Star Trek we hear of Code Green? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
Condition Green, isn't it?
Condition Green,
yeah. Condition Green, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they made up stuff like that all the time for use in a particular episode, and you never hear about it again. So,
but what was it he said that made Scotty understand it was a condition/code green?
Well, it was when he was being ordered to beam up by the proconsul, beam down everybody from the ship, and Kirk was about to have Scotty just transport them the hell out of there, but then the guards came in and point the machine guns at them, and he just tells Scotty, "Condition green, all's well, Kirk out," or something like that. So the condition green.
He actually says condition green.
He says it, yeah. He didn't push a button, and then like in Day and the Dove, you have that button on the communicator, which we'll get to, that lets you know you're in trouble, but there's nothing verbal, and that's when Spock keeps the Klingons in the transporter matrix rather than actually materializing them. But we'll get to that in about 20 weeks or whenever.
Some more love for Ruben's outfit today. Ruben looking very sexy. And hello, Cake is Eternal. Nice to see you. Jay says, I think Ruben has done this kind of thing before. Yes, Ruben's become famous for his episode relevant gags. Ooh, you guys, there's a huge thunderstorm brewing outside. Zeus is not happy, or Jupiter.
I'm hoping to see this very soon, because when it comes to Plato stepchildren.
That's right. Yeah.
Or what about when you dress up? You have to dress up like the friendly angel when we do that episode.
Oh gosh, yeah, extra shower curtain.
Wait for that episode. When is this episode?
What was that episode?
And the children shall lead.
Shall lead, yeah. It's coming up.
It's like within the first 10 of the third season, I think.
Madatal, I'm just looking at this. It's like a simulated test that you just tweeted.
It's a very hard test, so only the best can pass. But
Fun says the interaction between Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy in the jail cell is one of the best scenes in the episode, and it's one of the most memorable in Star Trek. He admitting having emotions in the Tholian web when Kirk is presumed dead. McCoy says to Spock, "It does hurt." Responds, "What would you have me say?"
What would you have me say?
The way that's right. The way he was moving up. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, Father's back. He's on his starship.
We ain't got there yet, though.
Yeah.
No, the thing that's really good about that scene is that it starts with McCoy trying to reach out to Spock, trying to thank him for saving his life. So it's not just a typical McCoy and Spock, where McCoy's ribbing Spock and Spock's being arch back to him. It's like McCoy's trying to reach out to him, but Spock is just playing it, totally straight. And then finally McCoy gets frustrated and tries to throw it in his face very, pointedly, and Spock hints that, yes, he's feeling... he's basically admitting that, yes, he knows what to do with a genuine warm feeling. He's worried about Kirk as well, but he says it without just showing it. But it's enough to make McCoy kind of back down and realize they have this kind of same feeling, the same empathy. So
surely
you still see that
47 shows up.
Yeah,
the 47 number.
Oh yeah,
47
right.
crew people.
Yeah,
but I was going to say
47.
just before saying that, you do see that little bit of frustration in Spock, because when he's testing the bars and he's at that door, he gives that door a bit of a shove.
Yeah, that's true.
See that that little bit of frustration that does eke out.
That's a good point.
Surely McCoy, as a doctor, would realize that Vulcans have more powerful emotions.
Right.
Not necessarily.
When do we get that? That doesn't come till later,
Vulcans
right?
are very secretive about like their medical stuff. Like no one really understood Pon farr even in the time of Star Trek Voyager. Mind melds are they're secretive about mind melds. And we even see like a bit of that later in Star Trek Enterprise. Like the Vulcans don't like to. They're very
even
private.
though
they don't like to
Sarek,
share information.
even though Sarek in Star Trek 3 is like, how could you not know about this whole thing? About the Katra. Like,
he knew how close. He knew how close Spock and Kirk were, and he thought,
but not close enough.
Spock would have told his friend.
He didn't know that it wasn't.
Not close enough for Kirk to ever Google.
Well,
Vulcan culture.
No, that's what Father was just saying, is that they're secretive about it, so there wouldn't be a Google entry. But Spock obviously didn't even tell him about his brother either, so Spock was very secretive.
Well, and the other thing at this point, and we've talked
or
his
fiance. He doesn't.
Or his fiance. That's right.
Or he never said, "Hey, my dad is the super famous ambassador."
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about it a little bit before on another discussion, but it takes some time for original series Star Trek to even settle on Vulcans. All Vulcans have emotions. I mean, I think there's a lot of lines and indications that the initial concept was that most Vulcans don't have emotions. It's just Spock. Mm-hmm. It's uniquely Spock because of his human half. So McCoy might, probably has no idea what the guy's feeling, but he's gotten a sense that he's feeling something from the moments that they've had up until now. But it really wasn't established until kind of later on, firmly, that yes, this is something all Vulcans deal with, which I think makes Spock seem less special. So I don't really like how that got resolved.
Well,
but,
I
agree with that.
They didn't even sort of agree on the name, did they? Because at the start it was Vulcanians.
Yeah. It's all they're inventing it all. They're just
like even in the 70s and 80s, like in Phase 2, the thing with Zahn as the replacement, because they didn't think it'd get Nimoy, but he was supposed to be a Vulcan with zero emotions, and he
was like Data. Yeah,
he was gonna be like Data. He's gonna be like, oh, I want to learn about human emotions because I don't have them, so I'm very curious. I'm intrigued. And then in the movies, originally in the script, or the earlier drafts before Nicholas Meyer came on and rewrote it, the Wrath of Khan, they were going to establish that Saavik was a half Romulan.
Yeah.
And that's why she would have been like a little bit more of an emotional. That's why she says things like "damn" when she's frustrated, and she cries at the funeral.
The tear.
So even then,
that's true.
As recent as the 80s, they were still thinking that all Vulcans would be emotionless except for the half-human one.
Yeah.
And to Paul, even when she was emotional, that was because of Trellian D, and she was going to be revealed to be a Romulan. Half Romulan, even.
They're gonna recycle Saavik's
story
original idea.
Yeah.
Do you think if Kirstie Alley had stayed? I know we've gone right, but do you think if Kirstie Alley had stayed on to do 3 and everything, that they would have gone more that? Because obviously when they brought, I forgot the name all of a sudden.
Robin Curtis.
Curtis in. She played it very Vulcan.
That was Nimoy's direction, though. Nimoy wanted her to be a little bit. And that's probably because Nimoy probably did want Spock to be a little bit like the special Vulcan. So he kind of instructed her in Star Trek 3 to play it extremely stoic and is like borderline robotic.
Yeah, and it doesn't work as well, but yeah. In my opinion, anyway, I prefer Kirstie Alley at least as Saavik. Although
Robin Curtis is such a nicer person, though.
Yeah, Robin Curtis is such a nicer person. Yeah. At least with Saavik, you don't have the Vulcan hairstyle in both of them. It's said, was it one planet, one hairstyle?
Stress Free K says, I think for Spock, his human side is a liability. Like Tuvok, emotions are too overwhelming, or they probably are overwhelming based on what we know of Vulcans from later. RP Monag says that So can't be safe to stream and drive. He's not driving. He's being driven, as far as I know, right? Like, anyways, we'll assume he was being driven, or
Not this time. He was actually driving this time. He was on the
oh, that's
side
why
of
he
the
was
car.
just putting the phone down. That's why you're on mute a lot of the times. That makes sense.
I was on camera whenever I was at a red light.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. We worry. It's a good point. I was like, well, the last couple of times you were driven, so it was a different story. So, let's see. There's a lot of talk about Ethan Peck, and I'm excited about Strange New Worlds. Ruben, do you have a Strange New Worlds comment this week? Like, I was just curious. Like, is there anything that might from this episode that might be cool on Strange New Worlds?
Man, I don't know. Just pick one Parallel Earth episode if you're gonna kind of redo a Parallel Earth. Please
what would they
like
do?
5.
What would be like?
What's left to do with Parallel Earth?
Parallel
like,
Earth,
yeah,
like
what is
Pirate World. If like the pirates conquered the seven seas.
Yeah. I'm all for Pirate World. Actually, yes.
I am so up for Pirate World.
Yes.
Everyone they have to disguise themselves. They disguise themselves as pirates. So you'll have like Captain Pike and Number One and Nurse Chapel, but they're like, "Arg me matey, shiver me timbers."
Spock will be a sea demon.
Yeah.
Spock would be a sea demon of some kind. It's
Scotty,
a sea devil.
I need 5 eye patches in 3 minutes or we're all dead. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, EGT?
Why? Hey, if this is a world that like the Roman Empire stayed in power and was the dominant superpower into the 20th century, why do they all, instead of Latin, they not only speak English but they speak American style English? That doesn't make any sense at all. But
isn't it the translate? Wouldn't it be the?
No, because
No,
Spock
it's
actually
English.
says, remarkable, they're speaking English.
I missed that.
I agree with one of the comments. No more mirror universe and Strange New Worlds.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think mirror universe
it's been done so blatantly. That's my problem with it. Like, why can't you land on a planet that has a lot of similarities to Rome? You know, but
because then you'd be on Romulus.
They land on the planet.
Yes.
They land on the planet. They start to learn some of the things about the planet, and one of them says, "Oh, it's kind of like Rome. They're similar to Rome on Earth." That's it. It doesn't have to look exactly like Rome, and they got to like everything. It's so bizarre to me. I mean, I get why they did it because of budget and time. You know, those props are all sitting around. All those Roman movies being made in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, was this like the Ben-Hur set or something?
Yeah,
the jail cell was from Patterns of Force, wasn't it? They used that in Patterns of Force.
Yeah, I think it's either the same or the similar one. Yeah.
You know,
when we had the Nazi planet
as a whole, to like the Chinese kind of Russian. Communist Mongols, you know, like I can see comparisons to them. I don't need them to be exactly like, you know.
Well, that's kind of what they did in later Star Trek. That's kind of what they settled on, and even in the original series, more often than not, it's just an alien world. It's not a parallel of Earth. Those preservers that we'll learn about in season 3. They were going around making all these Earth copies, I guess, trying to preserve different aspects of Earth. That's how I excuse it.
Yeah, it's true. Ulysses the Pagan says, Data, though desired to understand humans, desire is an emotion. Seems to me the TNG writers were confused what non-emotions are actually like.
There's scenes with Data where I'm like, I don't understand why Data is reacting to this at all.
I think the thing that I always wrote it off as is he's so advanced that he can emulate emotions even if he doesn't understand or feel them. So there's times where it's confusing because there are times where he's attempting to emulate emotions, and sometimes he does them successfully. And sometimes
I don't know if I agree that desire is an emotion. I think I disagree. Desire is a verb. It's like an action that you take, like wanting. Like you can want something without emotion.
Well, and it's sort of like he's programmed that way, and
you can feel desire, Fathery.
It's like my garage door desires to fall down unless I pull it up, right? I mean, it's just that's mechanically how it's meant to. You know, it's just what he's programmed to.
The wind desires. The wind desires to blow. It's just It's poetry, Ulysses. Ulysses, it's poetry.
But yeah,
it's poetry. Data's being poetic, which he can be, but yeah, I think that's the thing is that he does a good job at emulating emotions because a lot of people do say like well, maybe Data had emotions all along. No, I think he was really good at emulating them, but he just couldn't feel them, which is.
I think after Lore, you know, kind of scared the people in the colony, Dr. Sung would have wanted to not completely give up on that idea of emotion. And
well, it's actually stated in it's stated in that episode when you first see Lore that obviously that he was too human for the settlers to accept him. Hence, he created Data. And that's why he couldn't use contractions.
He was a little too Soong-like too, from what we've seen of the Soongs.
I am not less perfect than Lore.
That's a great.
I'm not less perfect than Lore.
Yeah, both of you sit down. Yeah,
the chat is spanning a lot of different Star Trek, which I love. But we're coming up to the end of our program.
What do we think
here.
at the very end of this episode? What do we think of that? I mean, when I was a kid, I kind of, I was turned off by this sort of overtly religious sort of even reference to it, but as I've now watching it, although I haven't seen this episode in a while, I don't know, I don't mind it as much. Or I mean, it is interesting to you think of Roddenberry as being a fairly strident atheist or like humanist or not interested in, which I think maybe became more later, but I don't think he was as kind of anti-religious, or if you want to call it that, back in when the original series was going on. Anyway, I mean, in any way they couldn't have gotten away with that. But I thought, it was interesting that they had that moment, or that they included it at all.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't just talk about Christianity. I mean, there was that one line with McCoy when he said there are many beliefs, and obviously they reject it because they said no, the sun is just the one belief. But McCoy actually does state that.
Yeah.
I think
so there is that one line.
I think from like an atheist or maybe evolved perspective, where religion isn't the like as mysterious or as magical as it is to some people like today and in the past, it's seen as a. I think that because like I like that they emphasize love and brotherhood. Like they seem to emphasize that like because these people are discovering this like Christ like figure on their own world, that they're gonna also have the same kind of like revolution of this is kind of a dubious statement because now I'm thinking of like the Crusades and things like that. Like there's not like a lot of good things that came out of like religion in general, but I will just say that like to me it just seems like a like I would say like a 23rd century perspective of like, oh, that's really nice. That means that they're like going through this phase of their development, which can only ultimately lead to like more love and
to
brotherhood,
and
to the Crusades.
It's terrifying. I'm like, it's like go through like 1,000 years of war and death and more murder. And this is awful. This is awful.
It's true. I was trying to make a good argument, but I think I just fell flat on my own argument.
Oh shit! This episode's not really about anything. That's Christianity. That's it.
There's a big elephant in the room that no one's addressing, though.
Oh, go.
No one ever suspects the Spanish Inquisition, but that's still to come on this world. They're gonna be like it's gonna be like 21st century torturing. They're gonna have like waterboards and stuff.
I've got Michael Palin going. Maybe it's the Spanish.
Awful things that are now hyper accelerated by the technology left behind, by the influence of the.
I will say that Uhura talking about it though, about the Children of the Sun and all that stuff, like that was kind of cool because I did think that like it was interesting how she knew, like she was like able to glean that, and maybe she studies religion or something. Like it was a cool moment.
Saying about studying religion, it would have been interesting to see how Strange New Worlds Pike would deal with it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because there was that exchange in Discovery, which was pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, and like he's like they added that he is like really a student of religion,
his
theology.
His father was the religions and everything else.
And it ties into the cage because they're like in the cage. The Telosians put them in a recreation of hell, and they're like from a fable you heard as a child. So it's like when his like dad was teaching him about church and stuff. But I'm already retconning in Strange New World stuff because at the beginning when Spock is like telling Uhura like the actual term they used was television or something like that. I was thinking like she'd probably be like, "Man, I'm so tired of your shit. We've been working together on this shit for like over a decade now. I was here in Strange New World season 1."
That's really funny. Speaking of her, okay, 2 things before we go. Scotty was awesome as acting captain in this episode. I thought
he always
was, like,
is.
Really
he
amazing.
always when he's acting captain.
Yeah, but here
awesome.
he was like extra special awesome. I thought, like, I was really impressed with Scotty. But one scene in particular that I liked, which was when he was talking to himself,
they're
like about
kids, bro. They're picking on kids. The technology difference between them and the Romans.
Yeah, but like he did it in a way.
Children.
No, but he did it in a way where it's like harmless. It's like kind of harmless. He like turned the lights out. You know, like that's not. I mean, like for a little while, it was
the
only
TV,
like for a few.
The TV
like...
feed. I got like that. That we're experiencing technical difficulties. Logo. It's like it's playing the Spanish Fly, like the do 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 do.
But what I wanted to say was in that scene where he's talking to himself and he's concocting that plan with Chekhov, you can see Uhura's like really impressed with him in the background. Like, and I was like, oh, like this kind of sets up a little bit of the Star Trek V stuff between Scotty
No, it
and
doesn't.
Uhura.
Well, there was never any setup for that, and that came totally out of left field.
There was never a setup for that in the case. Okay, fine. It was the influence of Sybok. Sybok brought the love and brotherhood on the Enterprise. And so
what did y'all think of Gene Roddenberry and Gene Coons writing a line of dialogue in the episode where the one guard tells Flaxius, right? Flavius. He tells Flavius, he's like, Flavius, if you hurt this network's ratings, we're gonna run a special on you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a not so subtle dig at network television in general. I think that one thing they did have to change is when Bartel LaRue, who's the Guardian of Forever, is the announcer. You actually see him on camera in this episode. He says, no, he doesn't say, the proconsul says it, that they've reserved a spot for you in full color. Originally, the line was in living color, which was NBC's tagline, for their shows, because they were going to be the first all-color network where all of their shows were produced in color. But they realized they couldn't go that far. I'm not sure if they were told not to put it or they just decided against it. So they were clearly trying to poke at the network beast there a little bit. But it seems pretty mild to me on the whole.
Very fun. Yeah, that's cool.
So what did you guys think then when Kirk got the sword and he stood there and you hear that squelching sound as he gets that guard with the sword?
Yeah. The sound effects are good. The sword and knife sound effects in this episode are top notch. Yeah, I don't know if they had some watermelons laying around that they just
must have.
Yeah, there's a nice juicy organic kind of. It sounds right.
Yeah. There's only one line I've got to say that I did love. That is McCoy. He said, "I'd just love to go down on one planet and go, behold, I am the Archangel Gabriel."
That was really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, he was super extra in this episode. No wonder Spock was very antagonistic with him. He was just like, the whole time he was like, but that was funny. You guys, any final thoughts and ratings? I'm going to give this one a 9.5. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a superb episode. I was very surprised. I didn't remember anything except the Romans, and so I was like very pleased to see it as a 40-year-old person and see all this like nuance and all these connections and everything. It was very cool.
Who's next?
I'll let Ruben. Eugenio can go next.
Oh God! Oh God!
I thought the outlier here. This episode was weird to me. On the one hand, give it a thumbs up. It was entertaining. Like the entertainment value was there. It was oddly entertaining. On the other hand, it's also kind of a meaningless episode. That flat, like it hits its tension point very early on and never really goes up. It just kind of like, they're in trouble, then they're not in trouble, and that's the episode. Christians, Jesus, and that's it. Like it's weird to me. So I don't know what I would give it. I guess it's it's like a perfect 5.
Perfect
Because
five.
it is entertaining. Like I wasn't bored. I wasn't, but at the same time, I was like, this is all kind of like pointless. What's going on here? It's so weird to me. They're having these arguments that make no real sense at like random time. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, it was worth it for me to see you dressed up as Eugenio James
That was definitely
TK.
the funnest part.
That was really fun.
So I guess a 5.
A 5. Robbie, what would you say?
I think I'd give it a 7, and that's not just because PJ put up a 7 right there. I just noticed that. My only complaint really would be that we didn't get to see. I think it would have been really cool if we got to see Kirk and McCoy and Spock free the slaves. That could have been a really interesting, heroic moment for them, but there's probably too many slaves to free. But just do some kind of good to wrap up the episode instead of what we got, which kind of left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth.
But that would have gone against the non-interference.
Oh, yeah. See, I hate the Prime Directive sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking
We all
sense.
do.
The reality is, if that's their logic should have been then, hey, that ship crashed by the fate of the universe.
5
on that
years ago.
planet that it was meant to be. Leave it alone. Don't look for survivors. Don't look for anything. Walk away. Instead, let's go interfere even more and then walk away going, Jesus! Like, oh, God, I find it so irritating.
It would have been cool, actually, if inadvertently the power outage did lead to an opportunity for the slaves to revolt. That might have been an interesting thing to create additional chaos during all that, during all those scenes. Like, that might have been interesting. I kind of like that idea. But
The thing is,
they're
though,
sort
a power outage wouldn't scare anybody. It would just upset them. It would just go, I was watching that. What did
it would have been neat if like the I guess I don't know if they had them
like their Star Trek at that point, right? Like,
but like modern prisons I think have electric cell doors or whatever, so it would have been neat if like the cell doors were electric or whatever, and then like when the electricity went out, like all the cell doors opened and all these like
Prison Break,
all these hot gliders. I was a little upset that the only reason I ding it half a point is because I wish Kirk, Spock, and McCoy were wearing those short shorts that Flavius wore, because those were awesome. Father, what do you
got it with Flavius. Just
yeah,
get what you can
which
get.
is great. I get what you get. That's true. It's true. Father, what do you give this episode? And final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think there's a lot to really enjoy in this episode. I kind of complained about the parallel Earth stuff in the Omega Glory when we talked about that recently. I think this is very similar to the Omega Glory, but it actually does like a better job. You have like this captain who's stuck on this planet and is trying to do the best he can in the society, and is kind of the bad guy. But here I like that Merrick. That's his name, right? Merrick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He does kind of do the right thing at the very end when he saves them and gets them beamed back up, and that adds a lot of stuff to the universe. We get the psych test thing. Like Wesley Crusher had to go through that in Next Generation and Coming of Age, and there's even a short trek about that 2 years ago with Pike and that girl that worked in engineering. So that was cool. Yes, seeing Scotty in command's always fun. It's really good stuff with the main trinity with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I love that conversation that we talked about it when they're locked up behind bars, and I think that Flavius is a really cool character. He was a lot of fun. The guy who's like he was like this killing machine gladiator, and then he's had like a bit of a change of heart. The ending is weird. It does end on a weird note for me. I think that's just kind of a relic of the time. That was just more of a common convention in society and in our entertainment and pop fiction in the 60s than it would have been in more recent decades. So ultimately I will give the episode 1 Son of God out of Jupiter 8.
Nice. Very nice.
How do you think, you saying that, how do you think it would have ended if it was written today?
I don't know. I don't know if they would have done like the they would have done like the setup of like we worship the sun. I do kind of like that reveal. I kind of like that it tied into something from actual historical importance. It's just, I think that just was kind of a bit of a more common notion that like the Romans were really advanced, but they were kind of missing out on true enlightenment until they converted to Christianity. I think that's just kind of like a general assumption people used to make, which is kind of a simplification of actual real life history. Was a bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, like this Jesus figure in their society, what if he doesn't get crucified like he did here, and in on planet Rome, he becomes like the I don't know, like the next, like he brings they actually end up being like benevolent after that, like what you said, like maybe, you know, like they have a different fate than we did, and there were no crusades, and there were none of these other things. Like
Elvis.
their Jesus was Elvis. Like that was, like,
Thank you very much.
that would be
And the
amazing.
Beatles were his apostles.
Apostles, oh my gosh, I love it. That's rad. Paul, that's great. Okay, Tilly, what do you have to say? Final thoughts and rating, if you like.
I really liked it. I'm going to give it a 8.75, and I think the reason it's not top marks is because, like you said, ends really brought me. I like, Robbie, what you said around the fact that could they have freed the slaves? Could they have done this? Could they have done this? But obviously they can't, because they would have violated the Prime Directive. But I think there's something that could have happened, like the gates to the jail kind of opening, or a mass revolt and they just leave them to it, or something like that. But no, I really enjoyed the episode. I really, really liked it. My best parallel Earth episode yet.
Nice. Dadmiral.
I'm going to give it an 8. I'm not going to give it quite as high as Tilly. Yeah, I mean, I loved it as a kid because growing up, I liked Vikings, Romans, all that type of thing, and Star Trek. It was just like, for me as a kid, it was sort of one of the ideal mix-ups and everything else, mash-ups, if you want to call it. It's still, yeah, I still find it entertaining as an adult. You know, you sort of see a few more things as an adult, but yeah, it's a good story, fairly well told. I think the criticisms that, you know, that Robbie, Tilly, Father E have said are all valid. But I would still say it's still one of the better episodes of TOS that you're gonna have.
And based on what people are saying, we're not going to get too many more. Maybe a few more in season 3, but I'm still enjoying.
There are some real gems in season 3. There's several episodes in season 3 that I absolutely adore and love. You know, the Enterprise incident is great in my opinion. I like it hasn't aged great, but I think the Paradise Syndrome is a fun one to watch. Mm-hmm. There's some good stuff in there.
Tholian Web.
Yeah, the Tholian Web
is pretty good.
Yeah, especially if you like the Spock and McCoy stuff. Tholian Web is a great Spock and McCoy story.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So
So hang in there. Keep watching these. There's still some good stuff to come.
We're here for it, and then we get
here for the duration.
Series. Yeah, we're here for it.
Here for the duration.
And then the animated series. I'm so excited. Sub Commander.
Yeah, I like this episode a lot. I mean, it's another example, a little bit like Private Little War or the Omega Glory, where if you kind of saw just the outline of the script, you'd kind of think, well, this is a little bit dumb or implausible. But it's the execution, and it's how it's executed. And again, it's just really well acted. I love some of this dialogue. I love some of the scenes that we've talked about. The character development is really strong. And, you know, it's nice to see them out on location. I mean, it felt, I don't know, it felt kind of real. So, yeah, I guess I would give this, I don't know, I guess I'd give it a 7, maybe a 7 out of 10. The only thing I would, no, I guess the ending, I mean, listening to you guys, I hadn't thought about the ending so much, but, you know, listening to you guys, I guess it is kind of abrupt. So maybe I take a little bit away from that, or maybe they could have done something. I mean, I don't think obviously they could have helped a rebellion, and it's sort of set up in the writing that the rebellions are going away. I mean, Flavius even says long ago there were rebellions, but as the slaves got more rights, I think they were trying to more portray this as an institution that was kind of phasing out naturally. The one thing about the episode that I found a little confusing was, when they, in the capper, when they're talking about the Christianity aspect of it, like the word is spreading even now. But earlier in the same episode, Flavius says that the sun worshippers have been around as long ago as the empire. So it doesn't quite make sense. When was there Jesus' figure? Was he 2,000 years ago, or was he like recent?
Oh, good point. Yeah, it's true.
But it's fun. I always enjoyed this episode.
Nice. Real quick, I forgot to mention a couple quotes. The Prime Directive is actually mentioned, it's no identification of self or mission, no interference with the social development of said planet, no references to space or the fact that there are other worlds or more advanced civilizations. So that
was the funny bit, because they all went on about that, and you're thinking, well, you're gonna know that bit. You know full well it's for the audience's benefit.
Yeah.
When they're discussing it.
And then one other quote I wrote down was, I have seen some forms of entertainment that make this look like a folk dance, which I thought was very funny. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us in the audience. It looks like we got a 7, a 10. Let's see. Stress Free K said, I give the review of this episode a 10. Thank you, Stress Free K. And then let's see here. Everyone go check out Ruben on ruben-rights.com, and also on Rumorg, and also on Pop Axiom. Anything specific you want to promote, Ruben?
I got interviews coming out with the sound supervisor of a show on Hulu, called Only Murder in This Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short. And I also interviewed Dan Larson of Toy Galaxy, which is a YouTuber, content creator guy that does like mini documentaries on iconic franchises from all over the world. So anime and
I look forward to that. That's cool.
And that's about it.
You can check out Fathery on Text Trek. Text Trek is pretty awesome. I love it. Everyone go check it out. Fathery, this week you have your Lower Decks discussion that we did last night. And then what else do you want to promote from your channel?
Sure. Well, we cover every episode of new Star Trek live Friday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central, and then you can listen to those either late Sunday night or early Monday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll also be doing some coverage of New York Comic Con coming up in a few weeks, breaking down whatever news, trailers, announcements, what have you, for Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Discovery. And also, if you're on Facebook and you're into Dune, a lot of hype for Dune with the new movie coming out. So if you want some non-Star Trek action, go join the ATX Dune Club, and you can read along with us. We're finishing up Children of Dune right now.
That's the Toto theme. I can't do the Hans Zimmer one. It's too abstract.
It's weird. I want to get that on vinyl. I want the new score on vinyl.
I'm sure it's going to be excellent that first time you hear it too, as they call it a virgin record, but yeah, it's very cool. So check out Fathery. Earl Grey Trekkie, we're gonna dash right after this discussion over to his channel to talk about Doctor Who Utopia, the next to last episode of series 3 of Doctor Who. Very excited to talk about that episode. Jill, if you're still in the audience, I hope you attend, because I want to know what you thought of the reveal. So I hope you come to the chats there. Anything else you got to promote, Robbie? Oh yeah, of course, your Spider-Man discussion tomorrow. Your watch along.
Yep, Far From Home.
It'll be our last live action one, right? And then we have the animated, and then we're caught up.
And then we're all caught up. Yeah, it's cool.
Are you actually Spider-Man? You going back to the '60s cartoons?
No, the recent Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
that's that cool. Animated Spider-Man.
Those '60s cartoons were trippy as hell.
Spider-Man, does whatever Spider-Man turns the web anytime, catches thieves just like flies. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. You can find Tilly at Talitha HG, right? Did I get it right?
You did, yeah.
On Twitter, and Tilly's an awesome cosplayer, just an awesome human being. Just follow Tilly. Do you have anything specific you want to promote?
No, not at the moment. I was moaning to you earlier about how busy it's been at work, so there's not been a lot of cosplay. There's not been a lot of much going on. I do have, just as a little clue for the next cosplay.
Oh, yes. Very cool. Very, very cool clue. Everyone, do go check out your Scarlet Witch was rad. I loved that. That was very cool. And you had some special effects going on. That was very neat too. So
awesome.
Very, very cool. Check that out. And then Sub Commander, well, I'm saving Dadmiral because we have a trailer to play. So Sub Commander Tall, you can find him on Twitter under the same name. It's actually Sub Commander T, right? Because it doesn't all.
Yeah, it doesn't let you use that many characters.
as well as his Leslie account, which is awesome. Do you think you'll make it for TOS Saturday night tonight, Sub Commander?
Yes, I'm planning to. I think it's the Cloud Minders, which I like. So I'm gonna. I think it is. I'm gonna. If it is, I'm gonna tune in for that.
Okay, if it is, I'm gonna stay up too, and I'll tune in with you. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you did it last week. I saw.
I did.
Yeah. Yes, it is the Cloud Minders. Which I thought was Cloud Miners for so long, because they're mining Zenyte or whatever it is. I thought there must be the Cloud Miners, and I never read it.
They need to go to that world. They should go there in Strange New Worlds because they wanted to do that. Yeah. They wanted to do that in Enterprise Season 5, which never got made. So they can do it now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's cool.
All those Enterprise Season 5 ideas that they didn't get, that Manny Koto didn't get to do, they could do on Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. Enterprise lives. All right, here's Trek Cat's trailer.
That's the latest one.
Very, very cool. The Cerritos. So when does that premiere on the channel?
I'm hoping tomorrow or Monday. The video editing is pretty much done. I've just got to do the narration on it, the narrative. Once I've done that, then that'll be posted on my YouTube channel. I do an article as well that's on TrekSphere.
So check out Trek Cat and TrekSphere. Also, Father's part of TrekSphere. I forgot to mention. So
yeah, we're both part of network.
Yeah.
So no, it's this will be my I suppose you could call it the third episode of the second season.
All right.
Obviously, there was a near enough a 6-month gap between videos, but I seem to be back with a vengeance.
Well, I'm very late for an important date, so everybody live long and prosper, and we'll see you